who would have ever dreamed a year ago, August 13, we'd be talking about Phillip Rivers as the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, but it was August 24 of 2019 when the bomb was dropped on Indianapolis and the rest of the NFL with Andrew Luck retiring out of the blue. So now it's Phillip Rivers. The Colts now right there at the bottom of the top half, a team that I think a lot of people may just be uncertain about. I'm uncertain about them.
Sure.
I've got them higher than the Texans, the defending champions in the division, but I still don't know which way they're going to go. I think that's why middle is good for them. They could go up, they could go down, but they're probably not going to be 16 when it's all said and done, Chris.
No, I don't think so either. And, I think if you ask me right now, I'd expect them to go up just sitting here, in early or mid-August, whatever we're talking about here. Hey, last year was tough. Of course it was. I mean, they lost one of the 10 best players in football right before the season was going to start. So that's going to throw a little wrench into your franchise and how things go that way. We have to remember that. But replacing Andrew Luck, getting a Phillip Rivers, who we know can do some really awesome things still. We hope he doesn't do some of the bad things, is what we're, hoping doesn't happen to the Indianapolis Colts and Phillip Rivers with the careless interceptions we saw. But, Mike, I look at the Colts and go, my big thing was, wow, Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, they have done an unbelievable job building that roster. There is great depth. There's a lot of under-the-radar talent. To me, the one thing they have missed is difference-making playmakers on both sides of the ball. And they kind of addressed that this offseason to where I go, ooh, now I'm very bullish on the Colts. Hey, who's the guy that was going to make a play at the end of a football game or in a big moment? I don't know who it was, but now they got DeForest Buckner. I can promise you he'll show up in some of those moments, no doubt about it. Offensive side of the ball. Hey, they had T.Y. Hilton. But if he was hurt, you were like, damn, what the hell were the Colts going to do on offense? What are they going to do? Now they've addressed it. Got Michael Pittman Jr., stud at a USC wide receiver. Could have been a first-round pick. Then, they get the running back, Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, home run hitter. And then you add that with Phillip Rivers and his ability to push the ball down the field and be aggressive that way. I think it kind of changes the dynamic of their football team a little bit. And, Mike, I'm with you. I think they're a dangerous team, certainly, and in a tough division, but I won't be shocked if they're in the playoffs when all's said and done.
And we can rattle off player after player after player, but it all comes down to the quarterback, the most important position on any football team. Phillip Rivers had 32 touchdown passes and 12 interceptions in 2018. Last year, it was 23 TD, 20 INT. And I think the thing that influences me more than anything else, and I freely admit it, I'm probably putting too much emphasis on it, but when I see back-to-back primetime games with a total of 7 interceptions thrown by Phillip Rivers, and we get to watch that throwing motion again and again and again, and that arm is just not what it used to be, at least when he's throwing it to the other team. You get that into your brain, and you can't get rid of it. The only way to get rid of it is to get him back in a couple of primetime games where he has 7 touchdown passes in 2 games, not 7 interceptions. Chris, which Phillip Rivers are the Colts going to get?
Yeah, he played on the edge last year and didn't necessarily need to do that because they had a defense that could have kept him in football games. And you're right, those end-of-the-game interceptions in primetime and things like we talked about, you just mentioned, yeah, they're in our brain. They definitely are, let alone there's a handful of games where he started off the game being careless with the football and put them in the hole to where it was hard for them to come back. So, yes, I don't know what Phillip Rivers we're going to see. The one thing I think that Frank Reich will beat into his brain is you don't have to do it all yourself. We have an unbelievable offensive line, maybe the best in football. Frank Reich will stay patient with the run game. And then what I really think is sneaky about this team, if they get a T.Y. Hilton healthy, Paris Campbell from the 2019 draft at Ohio State, a guy that has a rocket up his butt, Mike. A guy that can catch a screen pass and go 80 yards down the sideline like we saw him do against Michigan his senior year or junior year in college. And then with Michael Pittman Jr. and Jonathan Taylor, I just look at that to go, damn, you got that skill set with that offensive line. They can do some special things, and hopefully he won't have to push the envelope of I need to make a play for my team and do that. And I think they should be sitting pretty when all's said and done if he can play, the position true to form.
Horseshoe on his helmet, rocket up his butt. That's Paris Campbell. Let me jump ahead here on the outline. Since you mentioned Paris Campbell, who led the Colts in receiving yards last year, Chris?
Oh, man. That is a real Is it Zach Pascal? I mean, am I right? I don't even know, but I'm going to go with that.
You are correct, and I am going to assume that when Pete Demolitis pressed the button to tell it to me, he accidentally pressed the button to tell it to you as well.
No way. No way. I live this crap, and I don't even need to look at stats. I just go through my Rolodex in my brain and go, damn, I remember watching film a lot and him catching a lot of passes.
How many yards did he have?
Oh,
smart guy.
Yeah, I know he didn't have. I know he didn't have 1,000. At least I'm hoping he did. I'm going to say it was like 748, 755, anywhere in there.
Now, if this was The Price is Right, you would be gone, but it was 607. So that's close enough.
Okay.
We're not going to go Bob Barker rules here. You can be over by a little bit. That's impressive. All right. Also impressive, the wall that they have built in Indianapolis, that big blue wall, anchored by Quentin Nelson, who has been a godsend for that unit in his 2 years in the NFL. Do you have, or do you prefer, if you're a quarterback, to have that kind of a line, or would you rather have the kind of weapons that a Tom Brady walked into in Tampa Bay?
Oh, it's tough, but I would say I'd rather have the line. I would, and that's not easy to say as a quarterback. But, you know, there's ways to make receivers and skill guys look a little bit better than they are through scheme and play design and things like that. You know, if you don't have blocking up front, a little bit of a run game to scare people and pass, time and pass protection and things like that, it's hard to do anything on the offensive side of the ball. So as much as I love great receivers and all that, I think I would take the offensive line.
And here's the thing. If you have a great offensive line, what happens is your receivers who previously weren't all that great become great.
Exactly.
They start catching a lot of passes and generating a lot of yards, and we start talking about them, and we have an elevated impression of how good they are because the quarterback has
all
unlimited time.
Exactly.
And they have time to get open, and he's got time to find them. And that's why offensive linemen never get enough credit, because when the offensive line is working to perfection, you've got plenty of other guys that get pumped up with their stats, with their profile, with everything, with their salaries. And, that great line leads to great skill position players. So even though Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronk,
I know.
I still agree with you, because we'll be rattling off the Colts receivers and tight ends with that same reverence next year if Phillip Rivers can find them, given the benefit of the time that he's going to. I mean, look, I nothing against the Chargers offensive line over the last 16 years, but I don't think he's had an offensive line as good as the one he's about to be lining up behind.
No, not even close. And especially, the last 2 years, especially last year. I mean, last year was one of the more poor offensive lines in all of football out there with the Chargers. And I think that led to him trying to do too much at times, maybe holding the ball a little longer than he should with that group around him, all of that. But, Mike, I think you're spot on, with what you're saying. Think about a guy like T.Y. Hilton. Oh, we want to run like a long developing route, right? A post corner, run straight for 12 yards, post it for another 6 yards, to 18 yards total. Now come back out of the corner route at that 18, 19-yard mark and run, to a high angle 25, 30 yards down the field. That's great. He could burn people all day. You got crappy offensive line protection. Quarterback's never going to have time to see you come out of those breaks or get open. Now, you go vice versa there and go, oh, the quarterback has time. Yeah, of course, now T.Y. Hilton can sell those routes. But even when you have time and the defense covers it well, right? Now, an extra pat on the ball. T.Y. Hilton comes out of the break. He realizes, ooh, I'm kind of in a bad spot. They got me covered. Let me adjust. I see my quarterback still sitting there in the pocket. And then, bam, it ends up being a 20-yard completion. And then we don't even, like you said, we don't even care. We don't even go, T.Y. Hilton didn't get open. We just go, hey, great job by them. They got it done. So, the Colts are, I guess another one of those teams, Mike, I'm going to throw in there. We've talked about the Browns, the Chargers. I think the Rams, I'm missing another team in there that we've gone over recently to where I go, didn't make the playoffs last year, but would be a prime candidate for one of those teams to say, here's the turnover here in 2020, and they're a part of the playoffs this year. I would think they're towards the top of the list in that combo.
Well, I think the Falcons were another team that
Yes,
we would have
that's right.
put in that category
Exactly
as
right.
well,
Thank
finishing
you.
6-2. And remember, and look, I don't think we can fully grasp this yet because we've never lived through a season with 7 playoff spots per conference. But we will see what it means to have that one extra spot and how many other teams are going to be in play for that spot. They're going to be playoff contenders. That's why there wasn't a single coach that was against expanding to 7. Because, if the mandate is playoffs or else, you got one more shot to get to the playoffs. And if the mandate is playoff contention, pretty much everybody's going to be in contention except a couple of teams when we get into the middle of December. Best case, worst case for the Indianapolis Colts, Chris, in 2020.
Ooh. Best case is they can win the division. I won't, if we're sitting here at the end of December and we go, the Colts won the division. They were 12-4 and 11-5. Or I think that could be the best case scenario. I don't think that's crazy. Worst case, I just can't see the wheels falling off this team. There's too much talent and depth on the team to where even if they had a few bad injuries, they got enough players behind it to still be respectable. So I'm going to say worst case is like 7-9. I don't think it can get any worse than that with the coaching staff, the guys they got on the team, and now Phillip Rivers. I feel confident in that.
Well, and look, the wheels fell off last year in a way that no one could have anticipated with Andrew Luck retiring.
Right.
I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to retire on August 24 of this year. Worst case in my mind would be something in the range of 6 or 7 wins, but
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think they're more likely to be good. They're more likely to be above 500, and the best case would be kind of a, hey, everything has lined up just perfectly this year. Phillip Rivers has a career rebirth in Indianapolis, and they go 12-4, and they're in roundabout rough contention for one of the top 2 seeds.
Right.
Although, as we talked about yesterday, only the top seed matters this year because no one else gets a bye. But hey, get ready because that AFC South is going to be fascinating this year. The Titans were a Final Four team last year, and they're like an afterthought when we focus on the Colts and the Texans in that division. But the Titans still not revealed on the preseason power rankings. They will be coming at some point in the top half of the list.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.